You're listening to Building the Broncos with Nick Kendell and Carl Dummler, Broncos Country's leading draft and scouting analysts. Get on over to milehighhuddle.com to sound off on all things Broncos.
Right now, and we got all the check marks. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. You are not losing your mind. It is not a repeat here. This is the second episode today of Scott and myself coming to you live this evening for Building the Broncos after we were here for Broncos for breakfast. And Scott, it's good to see you again. Good evening.
Broncos for dinner.
Yeah.
What could be better? You do not adjust your set. It is us again. And but you know, there's so many new faces in the evening. I'm Scott Kennedy. For those of you who don't know me, we do Broncos for breakfast with Nick, and have a good time. There will be a lot of familiar faces in here, and happy to answer any questions that come through. And looking forward to a Building the Broncos episode tonight.
Yeah, no, it absolutely will be great. Unfortunately, we do have news today to discuss. It's not since this morning. It's not exactly the news you want to hear, but we can continue our conversations from this morning as well. And also, as always, we love it when the chat can get in here and add to it as well, and we can riff off of that. But guys, if you have not seen us before, obviously we are Mile High Huddle. Scott and myself have the morning show on Tuesdays and Thursdays for Broncos for breakfast, but joining us today for Building the Broncos, which is our Tuesday show, Carl will be back at some point. Right now, he's taking care of things more important than football, which is, I know has to be very important if it's more important than Broncos football. But he's abroad right now, and looks like he's having a good time. So making sure he'll be back. Don't worry, guys. He's not lost forever. But for now, it's Scott and me coming at you live. Make sure you guys are following Scott and myself on Twitter, Scott at Scout Kennedy, and myself at Nick Kendell MHH. While you guys are over there, follow us at BTB Football Pod, as well as at Mile High Huddle. If you guys are joining us on Facebook today, please go to facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. Become a supporter. Also, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. And also, guys, YouTube. Subscribe, like, and share. Probably the number one way you can get after us to help us a lot. If anybody wants to get in now with the Justin Simmons jersey sweepstake, make sure you're getting in the super chats and the superstars. We're going to raffle it off just like we did the Von Miller jersey last month. So make sure you get in those. I mean, $1, you're getting in there for a chance to win a Justin Simmons jersey. $1 for a Justin Simmons jersey. Sign me up. Also, guys, make sure if you're joining us today on YouTube, you also follow Scott's channel at youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy, and free publicity. I'll be over on Scott's channel tomorrow. We're going to do a little morning show over there on Wednesday. So a lot of Scott and Nick action going on here. And anything new happened since you've been gone? You watched some Chelsea soccer, I know.
Yeah, I watched some Champions League. Champions League is one of my favorite competitions on earth in sports. I like it just about better than anything. So Champions League started this afternoon. What's nice is it doesn't interfere with, American football.
That's very true.
It's in the middle of the day.
That is very true. I am vicariously a bandwagon Chelsea supporter. I'm much more of a fan of the international clubs. So in like World Cup or Euros on, I clear my schedule. I'm watching that. But I will tune in to catch Chelsea every once in a while. Stamford Bridge is beautiful. Love those Blues as well. Let's get to the chat here. See everybody coming in here. BNS coming in. That Michael Ojemudia injury is looming large now, huh? Luckily, we are semi-deep at cornerback. True that. Michael will be back hopefully soon, also dealing with a hamstring injury. So we'll see. But the Broncos got depth, and they're one of the teams. Injuries are unfortunate, but if there was any positions, we're like, okay, I feel solid about the Broncos' depth here. It was interior offensive line with Moody, the first guy off the bench. Cornerback with Surtain being the first guy off the bench, I guess. And then wide receiver. And boom, 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 1 week in, you're already relying on that depth. So here we are. Flipping Booch, true. I don't know what that's about, but Flipping, it's good to see you. Jay Kozad saying exactly we didn't need one game in, a starting cornerback and receiver going down. Luckily, we got a couple somewhat easy games ahead. No easy games in the NFL. What do you think? Couple of easy games. I mean, relatively, yes, but probably a lot of people thought the Ravens would go against the Raiders last night being a relatively easy game. And any given Sunday or Monday.
It's okay for us to say it. We don't want the team thinking like that. But yeah, the Jacksonville Jaguars shouldn't be the toughest test that the Broncos should face. But in the NFL, any team is capable of beating any team. Blah blah blah. Don't want to overlook them, and more importantly, don't want to jinx them because I firmly believe in all of those superstitions. As Irish as I am, so yes, I'm very superstitious. But that one's not up to us. It's okay for us to say that. Yeah, they're easier games. You'd think coming in, and you wouldn't need to be at your very peak ability in order to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Listen up, Broncos Country. TickPick should be your first choice to buy football tickets because they save fans money by never charging any service fees ever. TickPick is the exclusive ticketing partner for the Huddle Up podcast and the Blue Wire Network.
Denver Broncos football is finally back, and there's no need to exhaust yourself searching all over the internet to find Broncos tickets anymore, because TickPick, that's TickPick, is the original no-fee ticket site and the only one you'll ever need as your go-to for all NFL tickets. TickPick got rid of all those awful service fees that the other ticket sites charge, which lets them guarantee the best prices on all of their NFL tickets. Don't believe it? If you can find better prices for the same seats on another ticket site, TickPick will give you 110% of the difference in the purchase price.
That's right, guys. When we were searching for tickets for the MHH meet and greet for Week 3 at home, Broncos versus Jets, TickPick had us locked down. So visit tickpick.com/huddle today and use the promo code HUDDLE to save $10 on your first order of Broncos tickets. That's tickpick.com/huddle. Use promo code.
Yeah, neither of these teams are thoroughly impressive. Broncos still are, personnel-wise, definitely should lap these guys. Anything can happen, but I think with Teddy Bridgewater riding the ship, I don't think this team is going to overlook the Jags at all, and they're just going to look to play safe, sound football. And as we saw last week, it wasn't always the most dynamic, the most exciting offense, but competent offense and moving the ball. That's beautiful to me, man. I'm a jaded Iowa fan, so I'll take what I can get. Joshua Hickey coming in here with a $5 super. Thank you so much, Joshua, for your support. We appreciate that and getting your chance to win a Justin Simmons jersey at the conclusion of this month. Joshua says Patrick Surtain II is ready. Caden will get more snaps, and we could see him get his name at the other safety position changed from lead to ink. I'm not sure what the lead to ink is. Maybe that's some vernacular that is not in my wheelhouse, but what do you think? Stern's coming in here and playing the more 3 safety looks? And also Patrick Surtain, ready or not?
Patrick Surtain's ready. Is he going to be Ronald Darby? Probably not right away, but he brings something a little bit different than Ronald Darby does. And, I was impressed with how physical Ronald Darby was at the point of attack, which maybe why he got hurt a little bit. That's not usually how I think about him. Yeah. But Patrick Surtain certainly is physical. 6'2", 205. Very, very strong and can play that freewheeling, almost free safety position. But now he's going to be needed where he was drafted for, which is a cornerback position. But, you mentioned before the depth there at corner. You're still throwing 3 pretty good corners out there, minimum. 3 named guys that, most people will recognize when you lump in Bryce Callahan. That, again, if you've got to have an injury now, it's good to get it over with early and at least be at a position of strength for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I do think it's interesting that Patrick Surtain was, I guess, call it what you will, but he was benched after that missed tackle. It would have been almost an impossible ask of him with that deep crosser to cover that, especially with Alexander Johnson. Probably not getting as much depth as possible, but, that's is what it is. I'm more upset about the missed tackle there than anything. But, it's going to happen. You're going to make some mistakes, and we'll see that early. I am excited, though, that Patrick Surtain gets to cut his teeth against 2 rookie passers as well. So I
honestly think that was more of a form of schemes than you don't bench anybody, a rookie, for a missed tackle on a play that wasn't necessarily his responsibility anyway. That he's chasing. So I bristle a little bit when I heard that. Bench for me. No. That's not why you said. I think it's just more of along the lines of the schemes and the stuff that the New York Giants were running against them. You're not seeing a lot of 4 and 5 wide receiver sets. Big spread offense from them, where you can run your 2 base corners, 2 safeties, and it just, to me, it was a matter of matchups and schemes. Now, how many times did Trevor Lawrence throw the ball last week?
51 times, I believe.
50 plus, yeah. So I think Dak threw it 58. Now you might need a little bit extra Patrick Surtain, whether or not everybody was healthy. You're going to see, I think, some more defensive backs on the field.
Yeah, and that 50 plus throws is a warning sign for any Jags out there, because that means that the Jags are probably behind, and that means somebody like Von Miller and Draymond Jones get to pin their ears back and giddy up. That Jags offensive line is not great. Trevor Lawrence, he looked good. He made a lot of big time throws, and as somebody's in here saying, look out, Trevor Lawrence could get hot. That is very true. He's a very talented quarterback, but also the offensive line doesn't look very good. Here we go. Kenneth Patterson. Lawrence might click. You never know. That's true. Same with Zach Wilson in week 3. But you have to feel pretty good about the overall team matchup here. But Lawrence could get hot. You never know.
Yeah, I don't want to have to count on my team. And it could happen any given day, right? But if I'm a Jacksonville fan, I don't want Trevor Lawrence throwing the ball 50 times a game. That's not how I want to try and break him into the NFL.
No.
It could work out here and there, but that's a pretty good recipe to, 1, get him hurt, 2, have a 3-14 season.
Yep. And really shake some confidence and maybe ruin some development of him as well. Even though he is quote unquote generational, there's no such thing as a bust proof player. We got Brandon Harden coming in here with the $5 super over on YouTube. Thank you so much, Brandon. Brandon says, Bama Broncos, man, you're living the high life over there. Broncos have 3 starters out for how long? I can take this one. Obviously, we do not know yet about Graham Glasgow. I think Mike Kliss said that he was highly questionable, so it's going to be probably pretty unlikely that we see him this week, which means that you're probably going to see Netane Moody at right guard, which will be probably a mixed bag. You probably see some highlights from him, but also some lowlights, given his ups and downs in pass protection. Graham Glasgow definitely doesn't get the highlight blocks in the run game that you see from Netane Moody, but also he's more of a steady Eddie in pass protection. So we'll see in that regard. The other starters out, Jerry Jeudy, he's out 4 to 6 weeks. He was put on the short-term IR, which I believe means he can return in 3 or 4 weeks. It's for some reason I'm blanking between those two. Somebody in the chat can probably help me out. Same with Ronald Darby with a hamstring injury out on the short-term IR. Broncos called up Hairston, former cornerback from Temple, off the top of my head, as well as a fan favorite Kendall Hinton at wide receiver. So good to see him get back up. Obviously, a jersey in the Hall of Fame from Kendall Hinton last year with that Saints game. Yeah, they're out for a bit. The Broncos are lucky to have depth at those positions in comparison to others. Like, let's say if it was, God, everyone knock on wood and pray to whatever gods you do. But like if Von Miller was out, it's like, uh-oh.
The football gods. What do you mean?
The football, I know no judgment here. Whatever ones you want. The old gods and the new. But like if Von Miller was out and, as good as Malik Reed and Jonathan Cooper have looked, you are really taking a big step back there, going from Von Miller to those guys. And I don't think that's as much of the case with the depth you have at interior offensive line, cornerback, and wide receiver. Those are like the 3 positions I would have said, like, okay, you have a surplus there. That's where you're injured right now. It's not good. You don't want to have injuries, but if there's anywhere you could weather it, it's probably those positions also with these upcoming 2 games.
Well, and the scariest thing about that now is you're one more injury away from having a problem.
Yeah.
You're okay for now, but let's get some guys healthy. Also want to say hello to Gary Leeds Palmer showing some stars on
Gary.
Facebook. Made one of the pods today. We're all over the place now, Gary. I always like that line from 50 First Dates when Adam Sandler's reintroducing himself to Drew Barrymore and he goes, "Sorry, I'm not better looking." Sorry, I'm not more charismatic and funny, but here we are again. And this might be a good time to take a look at the Facebook leaderboard. I know there is a giveaway going, a contest going, trying to get to 250,000 stars. I know we wanted to try and get that going. So as we look at it now, 32% complete. I think a lot of that about doubled in the last 24 hours, if I'm not mistaken. I remember seeing 18% recently. So going up to 32%. And the subscriber count keeps going up. In the last 7 days, and we look at the entire month, Mama Muti coming in strong. Zeus McPeak. See, I know everybody's nicknames now by this point. Randy Jones comes in and out on YouTube as well. Michael Ranquillo, big fan of the shows and always super supportive of all of these people. Josh Shadow coming in yesterday. Josh came in big time yesterday. Travis Weber, he is I think he's already in today as well. Howie freaking Day. Is Howie allowed to win? Howie won it last month. So appreciate you as well. A lot of these names we recognize from both sets of shows and all of the stuff that we do. And we just simply, we wouldn't be here without you. It's pretty much, it's that simple. So Thank you very much for all the support as we look and move forward to the Justin Simmons, correct? And then Justin Simmons we got this month?
Absolutely. Justin Simmons, arguably the best safety in the NFL and also one of the best people in the NFL. So there's a jersey that you want to get. That's probably one of the best you can get because, that kind of a good guy, probably not going not going anywhere. Also signed that big contract. So there's some staying power with that jersey, which is great. We got Chase Wellner in the house coming with $5 over on YouTube. Thank you so much, Chase. Getting your home ball. That's I still love the Happy Gilmore reference there. Also, I guess shout out to
good for your home.
Yeah, and shout out to also, I know, good friend of Adam Sandler and also was in Happy Madison, Billy Madison. Norm Macdonald passed away today, 61 years old, which is really bummer. He was a good comedian. If you have a chance, he was always my favorite talk show guest because he was just freaking hilarious. He'd kill those guys. Him and Conan O'Brien, some of the best chemistry. I love those guys. Chase Wellner, though, $5. Afternoon, fellows. Which team surprised you the most this Sunday? Arizona had a nice win. How about you, Scott? Who surprised you?
I was not expecting the Saints to roll through the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, that's a good one.
The Saints were a little bit of team turmoil, missing a bunch of starters through injuries, through all kinds of stuff. Basically, every headline for the Saints had in the last 2 months was negative. Even to you're starting who at quarterback? And then you got Green Bay coming in, always a perennial NFC favorite, and New Orleans whooped them pretty good. So, and then I actually let Nick talk me out of my Steelers. I'm just a huge Mike Tomlin fan. So to me, Nick and I say we all have biases. And one of mine is that flat out, I don't know what else is going on. I haven't watched football in 20 years, but the Steelers are going to be good. And I let Nick talk me out of that one. And I shouldn't have because the Steelers are usually pretty good.
We'll see. I'm curious to see how they match up against the Browns when the time does come. But the Steelers defense
the Cleveland gets one win in 10 years, and all of a sudden people are getting all goofy.
I just like the personnel. I'm not judging the names on the back when it comes to.
No, I'm kidding. I was born in Akron, Ohio, a suburb of Cleveland, so I'm familiar with the pain of the suffering Cleveland fans.
Yeah, no, it's pulling for them. I'm not the biggest Baker Mayfield guy, but he's definitely good enough to drive the bus. Maybe not be the bus, but drive the bus. I guess my biggest shock is Houston coming in and just punching repeatedly the Jags. I thought that Houston was supposed to be an all-time dumpster fire team this year. They're trading everybody left and right. Brought in a coach that everybody's like, who the heck is that guy? He was a running back coach for the Ravens before. And the Jags came in and just were absolutely terrible, just awful. And then I don't know if you saw the whole thing today with there was a big, I guess I'd call it some drama on social media between Denver media and the Jags because their PR person didn't make Urban Meyer available. He's not going to take questions from the Denver media. And they were pretty much, there was a big back and forth there that was pretty funny from this side of things. But Urban, it's already really gross there for Jacksonville and Urban Meyer.
Yeah, it's Urban's got such a humongous ego, and for it doesn't play when you are trying to coach people who are making as much money as you are and, acting that way. It's a different mentality. I'm not saying he's going to fail, but it's, that team had the number 1 draft pick last year for a reason. They're not good. So I think part of what you're doing there is coming in and trying to set expectations. And the expectations are, as we've said, Nick and I, for those of y'all who haven't watched our show a lot, is just don't get Trevor Lawrence killed this year.
Yep.
I think back to, Troy Aikman being a number 1 overall pick in 1988. Falcons or the Cowboys went 1-15, and then from 89 forward, they did pretty good.
Yeah.
Don't get him killed.
Don't get him killed. Don't shake that confidence. Also, don't make him cut his hair. Dylan Von Ark's coming in here. Sup, Broncos Country. Make sure you guys hit the like button on the way in. If you're hanging out here, that's always great. Rufus talking about the injuries. He's saying it's always something leaking right there, Rufus. Thank you very much. We got Mike S. in the house saying, what's up, Broncos Country? I think Pat is ready and he'll surprise people. I don't think he's going to surprise anyone in here, but maybe he will surprise abroad. Maybe this is the crack in the door also for him to take it and run with one of the starting 3 cornerback groups and gives him a chance to win that defensive rookie of the year position, which, there's a chance for sure. It's hard to get quality snaps in this defense at the defensive backfield, but injuries happen. And when they signed Darby, that was one of the big talking points. Like, this guy's had hamstring injuries and whatnot almost every single year of his career. And here we are. So glad to see the Broncos having depth at one of the most important positions to have depth and feeling pretty confident in Surtain. Now, if one of these other cornerbacks go down and you're down 3 of your top 5, gosh, everyone knock on wood again. Then you start to have issues there. And like, oh man, what are the Broncos supposed to do? Like nobody could really overcome that depth wise. But right now they're in a okay spot, I would say still, and you're going to get Darby back at some point. You're also going to get Ojemudia back at some point. So it's going to be okay. Mike S coming in saying, what's up, Broncos Country? I think Pat is ready. Surprise people. All right, Mike, thank you so much. Jay coming in. It's for real big time drag 2 years in a row injuries before we even started. Buddy, Jay, that's the NFL. This is why depth is so important. And everybody like looks at their roster and like, oh man, we're looking great across the board, blah, blah, blah. And I won't lie, I'm definitely somebody who looks at the roster and like, okay, if somebody offered a 3 for Bryce Callahan, I'm listening because I'm on that hunt for that next quarterback. But this is showing the other point where it's like, okay, well, everybody's trying to win right now. You need that.
So here's an interesting super. I recognize that guy.
Oh man. Whew.
Hot off the press. Broncos breakfast hat and t-shirts available in the merch store. Broncos for breakfast. We're getting our own gear. I feel so official.
We made it. Looks like we made it.
Well, I'll tell you what. So in the merch store, so we'll make sure we link that before we get out of here. The merch store. I think it's just huddleuppod.com, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I believe so. Yep, huddleuppod.com. Get your swag on. So yeah, that's great. Maybe the producer working behind the scenes can pull up that new merch so we can get it in here and show the people exactly what they could get.
So also the stars are shining. Butch coming in with some stars, and Andrew coming in with some stars. Andrew Baker. Andrew's question is, what was our weakness in week 1 that we need to work on? I know no injuries, but it's the NFL. If not, it's not if, but when you get hurt, when the injuries happen. I think that they've done a better job of protecting the quarterbacks, where you see a lot, you go through a lot of the quarterbacks, it usually says 16 games, 16 starts, which is really good. But yeah, you're going to get dinged up in the NFL. Everybody's playing hurt. You just hope it's not too debilitating. Weakness in week 1, where do you want to see some improvement? I know it's tough because it was such as dominating an NFL game as you're going to get. But there's always things to work on. What are you thinking about?
Ooh, I really like that Broncos for breakfast hat. That is sleek. Man, that's a good looking hat.
Focus.
I have 10 billion hats. What was the weakness week 1? I would say it was the interior offensive line as a weakness. That was something where and it also like some of that will normalize hopefully as the season goes on, because you arguably played the best interior tackle duo in the NFL. Mm-hmm. The only other team I think that holds a candle to them on paper is probably Washington football team with John Allen and Daron Payne. But I mean, Dexter Lawrence and Leonard Williams, they were as advertised, and I'm happy the Broncos stuck with the game plan. Teddy was great from what I could tell based on box count numbers. Watching it, he did look like option to quick pass routes when the box count called for it, which is great. And the Broncos also stuck with the run. It was not efficient. That's what you want. You want to have efficient. You don't have to have a high volume run game. You have to have an efficient run game, and it was not. But eventually they broke the rock with Melvin Gordon late in the game. So I would say it's the interior offensive line. That was my biggest. This has to get better if this team is going to be anything beyond a one-and-done playoff team this year.
See, I watched 2 full games this year. I watched Denver Broncos and the Atlanta Falcons. And by comparison, the Denver Broncos offensive line looked like the 95 Nebraska Cornhuskers. Oh. So it was tough for me. I'm like, yeah, man, the interior line. Dalton Risner was great. It's like, maybe he wasn't great, but compared to the turnstiles I watched in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz, he looked pretty good. But I thought he definitely held his own. And if you can get a stalemate, if you can take the absolute strength of another team and just get a stalemate out of it, then all the places where you have an advantage of, that's where you win the game. So, I thought they held their own on the interior line, even if they weren't, even if it wasn't a win. At worst, it was a draw. What was it? 2 sacks, 100+ yards rushing. Not bad. Not bad at all.
Yeah, no, totally. Denver Gator coming here and busting your balls. Hey, Scott, glad to see you in the evening shows live, but isn't it past your bedtime?
It's getting there. Once this show's over, I'm not up too much later. It's 8:30 now. I'm usually in bed at 10. So
I got to appreciate you. This. Yeah, thank you, Denver Gator. Good evening, Nick and Scott in Broncos Country. Glad we have depth at wide receiver and cornerback. Next man up, time to see Patrick Surtain the second shine. And Travis, it's time to rock that Patrick Surtain jersey. I know you got it. It's time to pull it out and enjoy that, man. That sleek number 2, it's a good one. I'm excited to see what he can do this week. Also, I'm hoping just for, Broncos fans to get a little extra enjoyment out of it. I want to see some Patrick Surtain versus Laviska Shenault out there. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Talk about a physical matchup, man. Those are two beasts out there. Speaking of beasts, coming in the stars, live count here. Top star centers today. Gary Leeds Palmer with 500. Andrew Baker with 235. Butch with 200. Michael Ronquillo with 100. And Steve Lazuski coming in here with 50. Thank you so much, guys. We appreciate that a lot. Keep them coming. You guys getting those stars in, and you get a chance for a Justin Simmons jersey. And putting my Hawkeye bias aside, I probably would get a Fant jersey first if I had to pick a current player right now. But if I didn't, it would probably be Justin Simmons because, you want to rock somebody who not only represents the name on the back, but the name on the front, right? And he's, Walter Payton Man of the Year, that kind of guy. So go get that Justin Simmons jersey, get those raffle tickets in. Scott, we were talking a little bit about the Broncos playing Patrick Surtain, losing Darby. What do you think this does for the Broncos personnel-wise, formationally, going forward for these next few weeks? Because obviously the Broncos were talking about utilizing more of a dime package look, but now that's probably out the window until Ronald Darby gets back. So what does the ideal formation look like? What are the adjustments now with this Ronald Darby news?
I think the adjustment is you roll one of your safeties over to a little bit more to cover for a rookie corner. With Darby, you paid Darby all that money to put him on an island to make sure that he was taken care of and where I could cheat my safeties inside a little bit more, help out in other places. But initially, at least, your safeties are going to want to keep an eye on the rookie corner. What I do think it does, though, is I think it helps you a little bit more against the run. I think automatically Patrick Surtain is going to be better against the running game and stuffing a wide receiver who's trying to seal him off and containing the edge than Ronald Darby is. And Ronald Darby's not bad. No. But I think Patrick Surtain will be better against a run. So at that point, maybe you don't have to cheat as much. So you're less susceptible as a safety to a play action pass or any type of misdirection like that, because I don't have to cheat over that way on running plays. So there's a little bit of a trade-off there where I think you might be a little more susceptible against the pass, obviously, but even better against a run. Now, what's interesting on that is the Jaguars didn't run the ball last week.
No, they did not.
So, what you're going to do is you're going to want to give him some help initially. Just make sure he's okay. He's been in some big time games for sure. Playing in front of this one's at Jacksonville, right?
Yep.
Probably so playing in front of 2,500, 3,000 fans or so shouldn't really affect him that bad. When he's used to 100,000 at Alabama. Jacksonville seemed like a library compared to what he's used to. So the moment's certainly not going to be too big for him. I can promise you that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I am curious to see what it means for the Broncos when it comes to the linebackers. Obviously, they were talking about using Surtain more as kind of a dime backer, box kind of cornerback / safety. That's probably not going to happen for a little bit. Does it mean, though, that we saw last week, Josie Jewell was the guy who stayed on the field the most. They were subbing off Alexander Johnson. Does this mean that Alexander Johnson's still coming off, and maybe this is the start of some Justin Strnad on the field in those type of pass obvious situations, because Alexander Johnson has struggled in pass situations when he isn't asked to come forward?
Yeah, I was impressed early on. I was watching, a screen pass came near side, came right towards the camera, and here comes Josie Jewell crashing down laterally. We talked about them being able to hold the line, but I saw some lateral movement out of Josie Jewell that I wasn't expecting. Turned a screenplay into about a 3-yard gain, made it 3rd down instead of 1st down, forced a punt, and moved on. That play was made on 2nd down by Josie Jewell. That drive was ended on 2nd down by him. So I can see why he's in there now, but can Strnad maybe do a little bit better moving forward? Strnad's basically a rookie, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. He hasn't played yet. So having that veteran out there is going to be very helpful for sure. But a base dime, I think we'll see some dime package a lot based on 50-plus throws from Trevor Lawrence and the fact that their defense isn't very good, so the Broncos should get up. The Broncos should get up and be able to chew the clock out, run their play action, be nice and efficient, and grind out a win.
Yeah, I really hope it's a fun, boring game. I hate to compare everything back to college ball, but it's kind of like when you have your Power 5 team and they're playing, Kent State. It's like, okay, well, you should be getting 6 yards of carry on the ground, punch them in the mouth, and you shouldn't have to have your offense be asked to do too much, asked to do anything too exotically, schematically, because you should just be winning your matchups based on talent. Now, it's not obviously that easy because it is the NFL. There's any given Sunday, but that's what you hope for in this Broncos game, especially after how terrible the Jags looked against the Texans. I can't even believe how bad they were. Alan Perez coming in here saying, nice to catch you two live. Broncos for Breakfast is my favorite podcast. Alan, that is so nice of you to say, because there are a lot of good podcasts out there. There's a lot of good other Broncos content creators out there. So for you to say that is really, really nice, and that's going to stick with me. That means a lot, for real. Thank you so much. Steve also coming in here, similar sentiment, saying, it's not in the AM. It's not the AM, is it? I actually catch you guys live this way. Always listen after the fact, though. Well, Steve, we really appreciate that, and hope you're enjoying it. If you can't watch it live, that's obviously going to be on iTunes, YouTube, whatever. Make sure you're leaving a comment in those places, or subscribing, or anything like that. That's very, very helpful to us, even if it's not catching us live. So any other supers came down the chat while we've been doing some of this?
The stars have been shining again. Michael's coming in. Michael had said Michael's kind of a racer. He'll start early and then finish strong. You don't just come flying out of the gate. You gotta wait until the full 60 are up before you see where Michael's going to finish. So Broncos Country are the best fans in the NFL. Go Broncos. It's hard to argue with. I've been all over this country, and I've been around all the fans in the world, and the way that I've been embraced with this pod, and just knowing everybody that I've gotten to know through the years that I've worked with, I'm certainly a fan of Broncos Country. Appreciate you, Michael.
Yeah, it is definitely a group that has high expectations. I would say it's a very hard town to play quarterback in, because you have to be great. I mean, this fan base knows.
That's every town. I mean, yeah. We were talking about, I was listening to the guys on Mile High Huddle talk about the scrutiny put on Drew Luck. I'm like, guys, there's 32 starting quarterback jobs in the world. Yeah. We all know what it was like for high school quarterbacks at our own high school and how they were treated. This is the NFL. This is the top 30 among 300 million people in the world. You are automatically put under a microscope the minute you put on a helmet as a starting quarterback in the NFL. It comes with the territory. I mean, it's you got to be a certain kind of arrogant and talented and egotistical in order to pull it off. And more power to you. But the bad comes with it too, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's tough. I would say it is tough in Denver, though, because the years of John Elway, Peyton Manning, and even Jake Plummer, that's a pretty high bar. And we've seen the other side recently, so it's gotten a little bit dark in that regard. But, I mean, people still know what great quarterback is here in Denver. Dale Hendricks coming in at $5 over on YouTube. Broncos win, but so did every other team in the AFC West. AFC West is going to be a bloodbath this year. The Raiders probably shouldn't have won that game. Their offensive line is not great, but I know a good friend of mine and a fellow analyst, Eric Trickle, always likes to give me a hard time because I'm like, Derek Carr is it's the 12th best quarterback in the NFL. He just is. It's bad defense every year, but he's not the quarterback where he can overcome the worst defense on his team. Not many can, but Derek Carr is not that level. And Derek Carr was impressive last night. And as sad as that sounds, he might have been the least impressive quarterback in the division this week. I mean, Teddy was great. Obviously, we know what Patrick Mahomes can do. Justin Herbert looked like a freaking god. I mean, it's really the quarterback play in the AFC West is insane. So going to be must-watch TV this year. It's unfortunate for the Broncos because this is the best team they've had in a while, and they could even finish fourth and wouldn't even bat an eye. They still could have the best team, but is what it is. But iron sharpens iron, right? You got to beat the best to be the best. Dylan M, $20 over on YouTube, flashing that orange. I love it. Favorite color. Dylan coming in saying Darby and Judy injuries stink, but hopefully they will be back before the AFC West gauntlet at the back half of the schedule. Tough slate of games. Yep, after the bye weekend. You are absolutely right. I mean, like I said, the week one game, the Giants, is this a do or die must win week one game? Because that's really there's no such thing as a week one game that's do or die must win. But there kind of was this week with the Broncos with how the schedule lines up. And you have a little bit of wiggle room now that you started off 1-0 with these next two games. But with how tough it gets, you really have to be looking at, if we want to make the playoffs, we almost have to start 3-0 because you have to take care of business against these teams that you're favored against.
Well, as we've said before is, typically if you can go 500 in the division or against the teams that are really good, win the games you're supposed to, you're in the playoffs, and then see where it goes from there. Then it comes who gets hot, who stays healthy, all those type of things. But you pump the brakes a little bit. It was just week one, but any question we had, all the keys we said coming in, what do the Broncos need to do to make the playoffs and be successful? Get good, efficient quarterback play. Check. Offensive line has to be at least good enough. Check. Von Miller needs to come back and be close to what we expect from Von Miller. Check. And then we get some surprises in there. Nick and I agreed on this morning that we thought Draymond Jones was probably the best defensive player on the field. You're starting to get some impressive depth from Shamar Stevens coming in, Jonathan Cooper coming off the bench, Malik Reed, we know what he can do. And this team hasn't, and hopefully they will, get everybody healthy at one time. Again, get into that run where you're making the playoffs to get everybody healthy and firing on all cylinders. It's going to be a dangerous team come December.
Yeah, I mean, run games and defense, those are things that you do not want to play in the playoffs because they tend to travel pretty well. And if you have a quarterback who is extending plays and getting it to the right guy and protecting the football, that is a tough out. And with that style of play, you can be beaten by almost any team if they get hot and the thing doesn't bounce your way. But also you can beat any team with that style of football. So your margin of error is smaller, but you're going to hang out there and have a chance in every single game. And that's something the Broncos have not had recently.
And there will be more questions asked, but the questions that have been asked so far have been answered with a resounding yes.
Yep.
So far, so good. And I would even throw Melvin Gordon in there as a pleasant surprise. I think he looks more explosive than what we were expecting. Maybe some of that's a contract year, but
fastest player in the NFL this week. Did you see that?
I'm sorry?
Melvin Gordon, next gen stats, fastest player in the NFL this week on that 70-yard touchdown. I think he was
what was his top speed?
I think 21.35 miles per hour. And I don't think any other player in the entire NFL recorded 21 miles an hour.
See, I'm always interested watching soccer just to compare with some of the speeds. So I think a Chelsea guy, Antonio Rudiger, I think he hit like 23 and a half. He's got the top speed in the Premier League. Anyway, just comparing athlete to athlete. But no, I did not see that the fastest speed. But who expected that? But I didn't expect to see that type of explosion and him with running for a contract, among other things. That's not why he's running. He's a professional and he's really good. But having that contract here is a little extra motivation. Doesn't hurt.
No.
And Javonte Williams nipped the bud. Every position, it seems like, on the Denver Broncos either has a veteran that is on a contract year and or a rookie behind them, a young player behind them pushing them. Yeah. That makes for great competition every day in practice. It helps add for the depth for insurance for teams that are, if you run into the injuries, but there's veterans and there's depth of young players on this team at just about every single position. And it's a good position to be in. Every time we would start talking positively in the summer, we'd always hedge it with, but the quarterback play.
Yeah.
So far, so good. Teddy looked pretty damn good.
Yeah, he did. And I think he's got this team buying in and believing, and belief's a hell of a drug. We got Brandon Harden coming back in, Bama Broncos. Do we know when Chubb will be back to full strength? Will Chubb start versus Jacksonville? Do not know when Chubb will be back to full strength. It's the ankle. It's the opposite ankle of which he injured last year. But he might not be full strength for a bit. But, I mean, Bradley Chubb at, 85, 90% is better than a lot of players. So hopefully that's not as big of an issue for him. But we'll see. Is he going to be back versus Jacksonville? I do think that if he is back, it is going to be on a limited pitch count kind of thing where you're kind of like, okay, let's test it. Let's get some looks in there. Because you feel confident with Reed and Cooper. I don't feel like amazing about them. I don't think either of them are the types of talents you want starting at edge personally. And we've been spoiled with like DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller for all these years. I think they're excellent third and fourth edge rushers on any team. So they can hold it down for especially the next 2 weeks against the Jags and the Jets. If you lose these games, and the reason you lost is because we didn't have Chubb out there, you don't deserve to win, honestly.
And being an outsider, I can speak for other outsiders. I don't think, in fact, I know most people don't have any clue how good Von Miller is at extending plays and sealing the edge. You see the stats, you see those are the highlight plays. But watching him battle with tackles and tight ends to extend a play out wide and push an off-tackle sweep wide so that his safeties and other outside linebackers and corners can fill and make the tackle to stuff the running game is impressive. He is a complete player. So I really enjoyed watching him play this weekend. And I'm sorry y'all had to miss him. And we'll miss him when he does eventually move on. Who we don't miss because he's here all the time for us is Gary Leeds Palmer. Says just showing some love. Nick and Scott are the best. We appreciate you. And for those of you who can't see it on Facebook, it's coffee mug. So thank you very much. That's like the quickest. It used to be like, food and stuff, but coffee is a way to my heart now. So appreciate you, Gary.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gary. We got Chase coming in now. Who is a wide receiver to start in fantasy with Jerry out? Gosh, can I be really lame here and say punt? I would not probably take any of the Broncos
Go
wide
somewhere
receivers.
else.
Yeah, I think if anybody I'm looking to get by right now, based on what we saw week 1, it's Noah Fant. I think Noah Fant is going to be that security blanket for him. Don't fully trust Albert Okwuegbunam yet to get the targets, but Fant looked good. There's a lot of times where Teddy, especially with quick reads, if the box is hot or there's a blitz coming in, he's looking at 87. He was looking at 87, especially up the seam. So, Noah Fant, I think he's going to be, as far as fantasy football goes, probably the biggest beneficiary in my opinion.
And here's the problem, because I would probably go with the punt, and this is why. As soon as you asked that question, I queued up an answer in my mind, and I looked in the chat, and it says Hamler, Fant. Who'd you say again?
I said Fant.
You said
Fant.
Okay, Hamler, Fant. And my initial thought was Patrick.
Yep.
Just because of, he seemed to be kind of a go-to guy over the weekend. But with the Broncos, I don't think you're going to have a fantasy play at the receiver position, maybe at the tight end position, because it's going to be spread around so much because of all those different options we just mentioned. It's a terrible fantasy team. Who cares?
Yeah.
When you're a Denver Broncos fan, who cares? This isn't the Colorado Rockies where, you got pick a Rocky for every fantasy player, every fantasy position, because the way the ball flies out of Coors Field. This is, we want to win, and having multiple weapons is going to help you win. So I don't think I would go in any direction. I'd play a wait and see on this if I could. But if I had to pick anybody up on the cheap, if he's available on the waiver wire because nobody really paid attention, I might grab Tim Patrick and stuff him away someplace else and see if I might be able to get – I'd still go one more week and wait and see, but I don't like any of these guys as fantasy options just because there's so many of these guys, which is a good thing for the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. If KJ Hamler / Tim Patrick are out there on the waiver wire, pick them up. That's an obvious one for me. But actually starting, unless you're in like a 3 wide receiver league that is PPR, then maybe we could talk about it. But I think you probably get a pretty high floor with Tim Patrick in that regard. If you're looking for the boomer bust, though, KJ Hamler. Speaking of fantasy, though, I do think based on what I've seen these next 2 weeks, if you're in that streaming quarterback mode, where you're like, you know what, I'm not going to invest very highly in the quarterback position. I'll just find somebody every week. Teddy Bridgewater might be a fun option these next couple weeks because you're talking about distributing the ball. Well, maybe not great for any one of the individual wide receivers. Teddy's going to put up a pretty good floor. And also, I think you might even see a rushing touchdowns these next few weeks. Biggest reservation I have is that the Broncos skunk them early. And then you play really simple ball control stuff and to take the ball out of Teddy's hands because there's no reason to put it in his hands. Classic Iowa Hawkeyes. We got the star count coming in here for today. Viewers gave the most stars for this post so far. Gary Leeds Palmer with 1,000. Thank you so much, Gary. You're a real one. Michael Ronquillo coming in right behind him with 900.
It probably needs a refresh. I'm guessing that Michael's probably come in and knocked on the door of the lead, if not tied for or taken it with a refresh.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael's a maniac. We love it. He's also active on Twitter after all the shows, so we appreciate you, Michael. I saw Greg Smith was in the house too, so Michael said hello to you.
There was another aloha I saw at the very top of the show. Someone else said aloha I appreciate. I love the ability to say hello and goodbye at the same time.
Somebody on here was saying, how's it? And apparently that's a Hawaiian, like how you doing? But how's it was a big thing. Like I've never heard that, but
I just wish I was British so I could use the obscenity to say hello and goodbye and thank you like they seem to be able to do. I can't pull that off. I talk to people like that. I better be ready to throw down.
Special, no comment. Andrew Baker coming in here, Butch, also Steve. So thank you guys so much. We appreciate it. Appreciate everybody coming in so far who's been just super supportive of the shows. We got Brandon Harden coming back in, man. I think that's his fourth one today. So thank you so much, Brandon. Bama Broncos. Teddy has the highest passer rating at 98. He was number one quarterback week. One left.
Higher than that.
The quarterback rating itself, I know he was number one, I think, for quarterback efficiency versus like CPOE and EPA per play. There's only one quarterback who rated higher than him. I cannot think of who it is off the top of my head, but Teddy had as good of a game as you could possibly hope. There were a couple throws on the field that I was like, wish he could have gotten that one back. There was a play in the red zone that probably could have been a touchdown. There was that Noah Fant play where he started on the left side of the formation, crossed the field, then turned up, and it was a severe underthrow, and Fant had real estate in front of him. But, he protected the football, got the ball to the right guys, and game was never really, really in doubt. And a lot of that has to do with how good Teddy played. So I'm ecstatic, man. We haven't had competent quarterback play in Denver. We kind of tried to talk ourselves into Case Keenum. I guess that's the closest we've tasted recently. But Teddy playing like that, you're talking about a guy. I mean, we might have to have a conversation about a contract extension at some point. That's ideally. I mean, gosh, I'm telling myself and everybody, pump the brakes there. We got a lot of season left to see how that goes. But if that's a taste of what's to come, sign me up, baby.
Yeah, he set the bar awfully high. I mean, that's as good as you can expect. Again, and people are talking about, if he had hit that Hamler pass, there's another. Well, that was right at midfield, right? So that would have been another 50 yards and another touchdown. But looking at Pro Football Reference, which is kind of my go-to, they've got his rating for the season right now, which is just one game, at 115.7. So I'm like, I think he hit about 75% and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, about 65 yards. What was it? 264. Yeah. I think it's going to be higher than 98. 98 is pretty middle of the pack, and there was nothing middle of the pack about that performance.
Yep. I agree with you completely. It's very, very high bar. And like we said before, or I've said before on here, I think it was, you're not really as much of a big NBA guy. Probably the Atlanta Hawks, not the best.
I used to be. If you want to talk 80s and early 90s, I can go with Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson and the Bad Boys and all of that stuff. But once the 2000s hit, I kind of fell off a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, for me, Teddy Bridgewater is a great pass first point guard, and that's not going to work for every team. Everybody kind of wants a Seth Curry or a Kyrie Irving or a Russell Westbrook. But Teddy Bridgewater is a Rajon Rondo, right? And that's fine if you have the playmakers around him. You have to have the supporting cast for a Rajon Rondo type to work out. And I would argue, on paper, the Broncos have that. I want to see better from the offensive line, want to see more efficiency from the run game. Hopefully we'll see that when the Broncos are playing arguably not the toughest defensive tackle duo in football. But just get the ball to the guys and let them make you look good. I mean, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady made careers out of that, and they're considered the GOATs. So you don't have to be Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers out here making crazy plays, throwing it 80 yards down the field to be a good quarterback.
All right. I saw this one earlier today, and I'm not going to let it go twice. Flip it. This wasn't you earlier, but calling Teddy Bridgewater's pass underthrown, when you got a guy that's that open down the field, the last thing you want to do is overthrow it. Yeah. So when a ball travels 55 yards in the air and you're still 10 yards behind any defensive backs, you got to catch the ball. That pass wasn't underthrown. And all you have to do, it's not like we're hitting a guy in stride from the 20 where you want to catch and run and score. He catches that ball, he drops his butt in the end zone, it's a touchdown.
Yep.
That was the pass. There wasn't anything wrong with that pass. I'm sorry.
If anything, I think it was maybe a little late. But still, you're an NFL player.
You ask KJ what he thinks. Watch KJ's reaction, and let's find out if he thought he should have caught that ball. Just watch his reaction on that one.
Yep, and I don't think we see that again. And I said it for those of you who weren't here this morning. You had 2 massive mistakes from players that are likely to be the biggest beneficiaries from Jerry Jeudy's injury, and Alberto Cuebanon with the fumble and KJ Hamler with that drop. Those guys still went out there and made massive plays. That play with Alberto Cuebanon's touchdown was gorgeous. What an effort by him. What an athletic play by him. You don't see that from many tight ends. And then KJ Hamler also, there was that Teddy Bridgewater beautiful play. And KJ Hamler skied for it. KJ also had a great play on the right hash mark. That was incredible. Those guys made mistakes. They're young. They're going to make more mistakes. Those are the ones who are going to have to step up now that Jerry Jeudy's out. And I have a lot of confidence in them. I'm really excited to see what they can do. Obviously, I'd rather have Jeudy out there, but I'm excited to see what these guys can do.
I love the mental toughness of this team that they showed early. Free play. Daniel Jones goes about 40, 50 yards up the right sideline. Kendall Fuller falls down on the coverage on a procedure play. So it is a total free play. Trips up the receiver. I don't remember which receiver it was at the time. Doesn't matter. But the point is, ball gets down to the 30 right off the bat. This is the first series.
Yep.
What happens? They try and run some gadget jet sweep, and Von Miller blows it up and drops him for a 7-yard loss. Next play, they lose him again. They're punting. That is standing up. That's facing adversity right off the bat and bowing up your chest and saying, you're not going to have this. And then I walked around all morning saying his name, Okwebanam. Say it.
You did it.
Okay. Albert O fumbles. They're still pinned back in, and the defense takes over the game right there. The Denver Broncos defense took over that game after that fumble. Instead of going in, I mean, those turnovers can be crushing.
Yeah.
The defense is sitting over there. They're not ready to come in right away. They're not mentally ready to come in. They're getting ready to celebrate a touchdown. Things are going. It's like, oh crap! Now we got to strap it on and go in there. 3 and out. All of a sudden, that game just turned. It was so the mental toughness of the team. I was certainly impressed with. In order to stare adversity in the face and turn it back around right on its head was impressive.
Yep. No, it was. I mean, very little critiques coming out of this game. You want to see the offensive line be better on the interior. Somebody who, and this pains me to say because I'm a big fan of him personally, and I disagreed with you this morning. I think you are probably a little bit, maybe chastised is the wrong word, but what you witnessed with the Atlanta Falcons should not be the bar of offensive line play. But I thought Dalton Reisner, he struggled last year, and he needs to have needs to be better, especially now that Glasgow's hurt. He's just got to be better. I do wonder if when the Broncos drafted him, it was for more of an outside zone in mind, and the Broncos have been doing far more inside zone power kind of looks with Pat Shurmur. Don't know if Reisner's the best for that. I feel like he's a little bit more finesse. He's very good on the pulls. I will give him that. So that's a power look they like to use.
Well, depending on what you're trying to do, part of the game, let's see some minors. Let's see a little rotation there. Some Muti. Yep. In there as well. We can certainly see Denver's got some options in order to move some guys in and out and make sure that you're getting more depth on the offensive line as well.
Yep, absolutely. It's going to be great to see. And obviously you'd rather have the starters out there, but if you're going to have injuries any place, it's at wide receiver, cornerback, and the interior offensive line. So it'll be good to see what these guys can do. And they have 2 of these next 3 games, regardless of that, they should have a chance to win, or they should win. I think they are. God, I think they're pretty big favorites going into Jacksonville. I am a little bit scary. I'm not going to bet on the Broncos game in Jacksonville because historical numbers say that Denver going to Florida in September is bad news. But man, that Jags team is so dysfunctional. I don't know.
It's really cool here, believe it or not. It's been kind of an early fall in the deep South. Jacksonville's can be a little bit different though down there and on the. Right there on the Atlantic, it just stays hot. Not Orlando hot, but hot enough. So
yeah, small
there was a point I was going to make, and I'll come back to it once you have something to say.
And I do have something to say because obviously I always do. And thank God for this outlet. Thank you guys, because otherwise my wife would be getting it constantly. And she prefers not to talk about football all day. She's a Hawkeye fan, but definitely. I also want to say you win this round, but we're still watching you. Looking at you, Tom McMahon, I thought the Broncos special teams did not go out there and embarrass themselves. And that is something that we have not seen in a while. Heck, maybe even the Broncos had better special teams play in this game. So to have them go out there and not be an obvious embarrassment, that's a big win for me. I mean, I know we're talking about a low bar with the Falcons offensive line compared to the Broncos, but I'll take it because we have not had that recently. And when the Broncos, the style of play they are going to go with this year, special teams cannot be a huge weakness because you don't have that margin of error. So Todd McMahon, like I said, you win this round. We're still watching you, but I guess I'll even say good job week 1, everybody involved. Sam Martin maybe a little bit on the hot seat, maybe not this year, going into next year. Is the punting somewhat conservative because they don't trust the coverage unit, so he's not kicking it as far. I mean, that's part that could go into it. I'd have to sit down and talk to him to really figure that out. But overall, I thought they did fine, and that's enough for me for this game, given how low the expectations were for special teams.
Yeah, and I wanna dig into those numbers just a little bit more because does the altitude have anything to do with punt coverage? Are your punts on the fly? Are they farther? I don't know what the average yard per punt is versus the net compared to the rest of. I'd like to see. I'm a big baseball fan. I love the mathematics and the statistics and the road splits versus the home splits, especially for a team with such a drastic difference like Denver with the Colorado Rockies. So, I mean, it's just like, are you out kicking your coverage the way Nick and I did when we got married? That's actually a good thing, but out kicking your coverage is not necessarily such a great thing when you are playing football. Yeah. I remember what I was going to say. You were talking about betting on the Broncos. I'm like, man, there is only one time to bet on your team. One, it's when they're dogs, when they're underdogs, because you can actually double dip on that one. Because if they win, but the other team doesn't cover it, you win both. It's like, hey, I win and I do get paid. But I never bet on your team when they're favorites because they can lose and not cover or whatnot, and they get beat and the team beats a spread. Now you have to pay money and you're pissed off that they lost. So betting on your team, I have to figure this out. Betting against your team when they're dogs is actually a good thing because you can win and get paid.
Well, there you go. I guess the last thing, and obviously Scott and I are going to see you guys again on Thursday. We're going to get more Thursday morning if you guys want to join us and get into some more of this Broncos stuff. But this is the game, biggest thing for me. I'm going to be boring, and this is going back to Kirk Ferentz roots. But seriously, run the ball, control the pace of the game, take some shots, especially when you've punched them in the gut enough times. Get those, and just control the pace of the game. Because this is a game where it's going to be, you definitely can win it, but I think it's more so if you lose this game, it's because you actually went out there and fumbled the bag kind of thing. So don't do anything crazy. Go out there. You should be better and execute and don't overlook them. And it should work. It should come out on top.
We had that same conversation about the Giants, and I always think of Iceman and Top Gun. He doesn't do anything fancy. Just nice and patient until you make a mistake. Then he pounces. That's all you need to do. Just let Jacksonville screw it up. Yep. Don't do anything to, if you give it enough time, I'll never forget. I actually cut it up watching into a separate promo video of Zach Kelberman on Mile High Huddle saying, Daniel Jones is a turnover plagued buffoon or something. It was pretty harsh. I'm like, and sure enough, there he goes. He goes and scrambles. He's trying to get some extra yardage. Cough. There's the ball on the floor. It's a 722nd fumble in his career. Dude, put the ball away for God's sakes. So don't do, just give it some time. Jacksonville will give you the game. Obviously run your game plan, which is run it right at them, little play action, and that should be enough. That's what the game plan was this time. And how many points did the Broncos score? You scored plenty. Yep. So you'll grind it out, and at the end of the day, you'll be like, wow, this was a really convincing win. Yeah.
I totally agree with you in that regard. In order to run the ball better, I would like to see hats off to Shermer, also the game plan this week. But one thing that I absolutely just adore about the 49ers is the diversity of their run game and the different looks that they can get. And if it's not working, why not use KJ Hamler on a reverse or a jet sweep or something just to hold that edge player, give him something extra to think about. Sean McVay is the king of that as well. So some stuff to think about. Also, been hard on the interior offensive line in that regard, but also the tight ends and Noah Fant have to be better as blockers as well, especially if they're going to shift to more of a 12 heavy personnel look while Judy's out, which is very possible.
So our bet last week, though, what did we say was the money one for Broncos and Giants? Do you remember? And what did I set it at? What did I set the line at for the over-under last week?
Probably exactly what it was.
I set it at 35, didn't I?
Yeah, I think it was at 30.
What was it? Oh, they got that late garbage touchdown, so we got close, didn't it?
Yeah. Yep.
Did they get the over on that after that late touchdown? See, that's why I don't bet. Crazy stuff happens like that. You can't. It was like it was about 35 points the whole game, then they get a late touchdown.
Yeah. Yeah, that's football for you, though, right? That's going to happen sometime.
That's why I don't bet. That is goofy stuff happens when I start getting out my own money. Things get weird.
Yep. No, it's You're right. You cursed him. You jinxed him. That's why I bet on the Falcons this week, and look what happened. No, we'll get some chance to talk about that.
I bet on the team I want to lose. I'm like, how much would I pay to see them lose? That's what I ask myself. How much would I pay? Because if they win, at least I get some money. What is it worth to me? So, I used to bet. I used to bet against the Lakers. I'm like, I'm going to bet the Lakers to win. If they lose, then great. How much would I pay to see them lose?
Yep. No, absolutely. I feel that way with Nebraska. A lot of times, God, I don't like the Cornhuskers. But guys, that's probably gonna have to do it for us today. This has been Building the Broncos. Carl is still out. He'll be back at some point, but I guess for now in the future, going forward for a bit, it's going to be Scott and I, because Luke is coaching some youth flag football. So Scott, as long as you don't have any plans on Tuesday, I think we'll see you here on Tuesday evenings, which will be great. A lot of fun. We'll see you guys also Thursday morning for Broncos for breakfast. You guys can follow Scott and I on Twitter, Scott at Scott Kennedy, and myself at Nick Kendell MHH. And while you're there, also make sure you follow us at BTB Football Pod, as well as at Mile High Huddle. Man, we got some beautiful looking new swag coming up there for Broncos for breakfast. Obviously, we also got the Building the Broncos stuff going on. I'd say I have way too many hats. No such. My wife says I have way too many hats. I would disagree. I have just the right amount of, if anything, I'm lacking one, especially that Broncos for breakfast hat looking pretty good. So make sure you guys go to huddleuppod.com and get your swag. And Chad's going to pull it up here real quick. Man, that is just, it's so clean. It's just easy, clean. I also love the coffee mug there on the O. Beautiful. Need myself a Broncos for breakfast coffee mug. That's number one on the stocking stuffer list this year. Guys, make sure you're also following us at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. Join the communities. Obviously, the live streams are only for 1 hour, 2 hours a day. But those communities 24/7, you guys can keep that going. Also, subscribe, like, and share on YouTube if you have not done so yet. Want to give a shout out to everybody who has been coming in today with the super chats, superstars, everything like that. Thank you guys so much. Also, looks like we got something from Brian Greenfield coming here. 3 down, 1 game. Talking about the injuries there. It's unfortunate, but none of them are season-long injuries. So we'll take what we can get, right? All these guys are expected back.
And hopefully in the near future, we can say 3 back in one game. 3 back as they start getting healthy again.
Or with some of these guys, I mean, hopefully, very possibly, you say, wow, we love Graham Glasgow. He was really good guard for us, but Netane Moody, he took the spot, right? Wally pipped, right? That's how it goes. Sometimes that happens.
I'm sure you'd be old enough to say something like Wally Pip.
Yeah, I mean, it's got my references. But that's something that very possible with somebody like Patrick Surtain and Netane Moody. Probably not Jerry Jeudy being usurped, but still getting some depth down there. And we're not playing the Chiefs and the Chargers in the next 2 weeks. So feeling good. Still got to go out there and get the wins, but it should be good. And also we should be getting Ojemudia back here soon as well to help that depth, not only in the secondary, but special teams. Shout out to everybody who came in today. Thank you so much for your support. Obviously, getting your stars and super chats in is going to give you a chance to win that Justin Simmons jersey. Zach and Chad will be with you guys tomorrow night, obviously, with a Huddle Up podcast. And Scott and I will see you, I guess, if you guys want to join us at Scott's channel tomorrow as well. I'm going to drop that in the chat. Make sure you guys follow us there. And it'll be at youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy.
If you want to see me talk passionately angry about a certain subject, why don't you join us tomorrow at 8 a.m. Mountain Time and listen to me talk Falcons tomorrow?
Oof, man, I feel for you. That was we'll save it for tomorrow, but man, that was a rough one for the eyes, especially for somebody who likes trench play. That was borderline offensive. But we'll get into it tomorrow. I don't want you to go to bed mad, Scott. That's rule number 1, right?
Never go to bed angry.
Yeah, don't do that.
Secret, Captain. I'm always angry.
But wife and I saw Shang-Chi last night. Very good. Worth seeing. Good Marvel movie. But guys, we'll see you guys tomorrow. And everyone stay safe. Go Broncos.
You've been listening to Building the Broncos. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.